What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down the secret to being an unguardable wide receiver. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you guys would like to train with us this offseason, we're going to be heading out to 15 different states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So our first camp of the year is unfortunately sold out in San Francisco. But next up, we will be coming out to Orlando, Florida, then Phoenix, Arizona, new addition to our tour, then Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles, California. So fellas, if you're local to one of those cities, would like to get some work in with us this year, we'd love to have you out. So check out that very first link in the description below for more info. Let's get started with this video. So now, first key to being unguardable is you have to understand how to beat a DB in press coverage. So a DB in press coverage is watching one thing and one thing only, and that is going to be your hips. And I'm not talking about an undisciplined DB who has bad eye discipline, looking at your head, looking at your shoulders. I'm talking about a disciplined DB in press. He is going to be watching your hips. So how can we combat that? So this is a great example from Stephon Diggs here of him doing a crossover move to get that DB to bite by simply selling this route with his entire upper half. There are a lot of wide receivers out there that think they are selling their releases. They think that they are selling their cuts, but they are simply just leaning with their head and leaning with their shoulders. Now, listen, that might work and that might help you sell with your entire upper body, but you need to fully commit your hips and fully commit your shoulders to the move. So what Diggs is trying to do here is he's got a DB who's shaded a little bit to the inside. How you can tell where a DB is shaded is you can tell where his midline of his body is. If his midline is even with our inside foot, we know that he's shaded to the inside. If he's maybe like a step or two to the outside and his midline is even with our back foot, then we know he's outside leverage. So when he's inside leverage and Diggs has to run a fade, he is trying to get this DB to move off his platform, keep his leverage to the inside so he could take a free outside release. So to do this, he's going to be doing a crossover move. He goes out and then back in. Now, when he takes this step back to the inside, I want you to see where his hips and see where his shoulders are. Everything about this looks like a slant. And that is what we are trying to sell. Anytime that I have inside leverage press coverage, I'm trying to make it look like a slant. I'm trying to make it think that that this DB, I'm trying to make him think that I'm just going to cross his face and go run a slant. I cannot do that if I do not commit my entire upper half. So that's a great job from Diggs. He hits that first step. He keeps it inside of his frame. He pushes off of it. He pushes the cell to the inside. Hips and shoulders commit. And then you see, we get that DB to bite. And all we needed him to do is just keep that leverage to get space off the line. So make sure, fellas, we are selling with my entire upper half, not just my feet. That's why it's very, very important for wide receivers to not be stiff. You cannot have a stiff waist and above, because if you're super stiff, you're super tense, you're not going to be able to move. You want that upper body nice and relaxed. You want your lower body to be sudden and twitchy, but you want that upper half to be loose. So let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Now, next example we are going to show here is a bad example of a wide receiver doing this, where the DB locks up the route, and this is exactly what I am talking about. So let's watch his release. All I can tell you about this release, like obviously he's trying to attack this DB's leverage, DB's inside shade, and regardless if he's in press, regardless if he's in catch technique like this or off man, when he is inside shade, he's trying to prevent the inside route. My game plan should always be, let's threaten him to his leverage. What I mean by that is trying to get him to move to his leverage so I got space to the outside, or space to get vertical and restack and run the route, even if it's an inside breaking route. Now, all I can tell you about this release is there's way too much movement up here. You see how this wide receiver attacks, but there's just, it's a lot of head and shoulder movement. There's not much movement with his hips. He's not selling the route, and you see what the result is. DB's able to play this thing super easy and anticipate the route. I honestly think maybe he guesses a little bit right here, but he didn't have him on the slant. I'm going to tell you that right now, because everybody could say, oh, well, he jumped outside. He could just run the slant. He didn't have him on the slant. He didn't have him on the fade because he did not sell it. You don't sell with your entire upper half. You don't sell with your hips. A disciplined DB like Stingley, a disciplined DB that plays in the league, or guys that are in high school, college, that are true DBs. The DBs that are easy to take care of are the guys who are receivers who had bad hands, and that's why they're playing DB. But the true DBs who have a DB coach that they go to, who understand DB technique, those are the guys that we want to try to beat. And that is where your technique comes into play. You have to sell with your entire upper half. Make sure that upper half is loose, not just my head and not just my shoulders. Let's play this thing again, full speed. Again, right idea with the receiver with the release, but we have to sell it. It's like finding that good combination, fellas. It's about knowing when to use the type releases, because you could be the smartest wide receiver in the world, and you honestly might get by. You got to be the smartest guy in the world, know how to attack leverage, know how to read coverages, and we're going to talk about that in a second, how wide receivers can read coverages. But if you don't have the technique down, there's always going to be a limit. There's always going to be a limit on how much separation, how many guys you can beat. You can beat the scrubs all day long with that, but we don't want to beat the scrubs. We want to beat the best guys there are. So now, next thing that's going to help you guys get separation, be an unguardable wide receiver, is being able to accelerate out of your breaks, understanding the third phase of the route. So this is A.J. Brown here, and he is running a diamond release slant. So obviously in the NFL, tight coverage, this right here is open. He's open. Quarterback's going to have enough accuracy to be able to put that ball on him. Now, imagine how much this is going to help you guys that are at the high school youth level if we're getting separation at the highest possible level by doing this. So every single route that you run, you heard me mention it just now, you get the third phase of the route. So first phase, the number one phase, is you have to sell. 2 is the break, and then 3, accelerate. So you got to sell. In this specific case, he's doing a diamond release, right? He's got to sell fade. So he's got to make this DB think that he is going fade to the outside. He's running to the outside, hips and shoulders committed, running full stride, running full speed, everything that makes this thing look deep. Now he's got the break point. He hits him with this like kind of throw-by move at the break point where he's throwing by, back at the shoulder. You can do it back of the hip. Now that's the break point. But now for icing on the cake, I have to accelerate. The stem, phase 1, me selling, and the break point get me open, acceleration keeps me open. Even fighting through a hold. You see how he's grabbing onto his jersey right here? You accelerating, pumping your arms, driving your legs to get you out of all breaks is what a quarterback wants, and that is what we want to be able to keep you open. Now, the same thing applies like not even on just a quick route like a diamond release, because we know that when this DB gets beat and he works a throw by, he puts the brakes on a dime, DB is doing whatever he can possible to try to recover. He knows he got beat, so he's thinking, oh crap, I got to get back on this play. He's running as hard as he possibly can, especially at the top of the route though. So like let's say, for example, instead of running this slant route, he is running a comeback route. When you break at that comeback and you snap down, DB knows a break is coming. But it should honestly be a mindset that it is a race to the ball. You're thinking it's a race to where this quarterback puts that ball, and I'm going to try to win that race. As soon as I hit that break point, my mindset is winning the race. Now, what a lot of guys will do is they get to this break point here and they try to win the race, but they turn too early. And that's where they'll start slipping. That's where they can put a lot of pressure on their knee with their cuts. You have to make sure, hey, we commit to the cut, we commit to selling the route, and then we're worried about accelerating. Do not run to the route, and then because you're trying to get out of it too quick, you start to turn your body too early. You start to round it. That's where all the slips, the injuries, everything, all those bad things start to happen. You see it all the time with wide receivers, like those 2 wide receivers in Alabama a couple years ago. I believe it was Jamison Williams and Mechie. They ran like a stop route. And that's how they ended up hurting their knee, because they ran up to the stop route. They had a great selling fade. They had a good first phase, good second phase breaking down. But on their third phase to get out of the route, they started to turn too early and their foot got outside their frame. And that is how they snapped their ACL just like that, because their foot got outside of their frame. And it's all about having the correct technique to be able to do those more complex breaks, fellas. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Brown, flipping that DB's hips and then accelerating back to that ball to win on this route. Okay, so now next thing I want to talk about here is how wide receivers can understand coverages. So to be a great route runner, obviously you need to be able to have the three phases, right? To be unguardable. You got to sell the route, you got to have an explosive break, and you got to be able to accelerate. Now, number 2, you got to be able to sell your routes to your entire upper half against man coverage like we talked about. But what about when it's zone? What about when it's off man? You have to understand leverage responsibilities and coverages to structure your routes. Because like everybody loves to talk about the fancy moves that they see people do. Oh, that guy did a rocker step. Oh, he did a trigger step. He snapped down. How can you actually apply that in a game? And that comes from understanding coverages and knowing how to read defenses. So watch A.J. Brown here. He's running a post route versus outside leverage zone coverage. Probably like a cover 3 concept, right? Cover 3. We got like a DB outside leverage. We got a single high free safety, and he's running a post, which is a good route against cover 3 because in theory, we want the quarterback to throw it to us right in this window between the corner and between the safety. So pre-snap, I come up. I see there's one high safety. I see DB's outside shade and press bail. We know what's he trying to do. He's trying to force me inside. So what a lot of young high school wide receivers will do, youth wide receivers will do, is they'll think, oh, I got the inside. It's a gift. I'm just going to go take off and run. But that's what this guy wants you to do. If he's giving you something, if it seems too good to be true, it is. That's anything in life, right? If it's too good to be true, it is. So if he's giving you a free inside release, probably too good to be true. He's forcing you right into a safety. So what A.J. Brown does such a great job of here is understanding how to attack his leverage, a.k.a. the blind spot. DB's outside leverage, that means he's susceptible to the outside. When he lines up outside shade, he's trying to prevent the outside route. So that's his responsibility. That's his leverage responsibility. So if we can threaten him there, if we can make him think we were trying to run to the outside, what do you think that's going to make him do? Widen out, and then that creates a bigger window for my post route. It's simple, fellas. So you see A.J. Brown notices this. He sees this on his route. He does this rocker step or kind of like just maybe a jab to the outside, threatening the blind spot, maybe making it look like an out. But you see, all we need is a couple steps from this guy. And that creates a bigger window for my QB. DB's not right on my hip, even though he recovers on it just damn near about. But we give the quarterback space. We allow him to make a good throw and not just run myself right into the safety. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by A.J. Brown showcasing that wide receivers need to know how to read defenses in order to be an unguardable wide receiver. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you would like to come out to one of our 15 off-season QB and wide receiver training camps, check out that very first link in the description below. We would love to have you out to one of our off-season trainings. You know, it's QBs, wide receivers, 2 days total, 8 hours of work. So check out that very first link below. I'll see you guys next time.